Namaste. I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in beautiful San Diego. Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. Please make sure that you like the video you've just watched and consider making a contribution on our app or on our website. It's really easy to do, and thank you in advance for that support. It does make a difference. Start from where you are. As I think about that, we empower ourselves in a greater way to start from where we are if we're willing to also press reset. If we're willing to go, okay, what needs to shift? What needs to change? Reset. I remember years ago reading, it was either an article or a portion of an article written by a man by the name of James Dillett Freeman. James Dillett Freeman was considered Unity's poet laureate. He wrote beautiful, beautiful poetry for Unity. He wrote the piece, I Am There, that was taken to the moon. Beautiful, beautiful consciousness. And I remember in either this article or a part of an article that he was writing about December 26th and how there is no day more un-Christmassy than December 26th. And despite the many, many, many years since I read that article, it has always stayed with me. Every December 26th, I think about there's some wisdom in that, right? But as we unpack it, I think what it's really pointing to is that we need to transition from the experience of Christmas to the practice of it. And that on December 26th, it's like, okay, now everything that Christmas represented to us. You know, a couple of nights ago, we were talking about we are the light, and we are to find new ways for us to let our light shine. That now it's time to put into practice that very thing. And so in many ways, it means pressing the reset button, pressing the reset button. I think Christmas is a time of reset. I think we've been living through a time of reset, right? Some of you are rolling your eyes like I am. We sure have. You know, businesses have had to reset in major and significant ways because of the pandemic. Many, many, many of them have closed. Schools have had to reset, have had to figure out how do we work with our kids, and even now bringing them back, how do we continue to test and how do we continue to support? Reset, reset. In our personal lives, we've had to reset. We may have found that this time of change has caused us to look more deeply inside of ourselves and to ask some of the deeper questions about what really matters to me. What do I really stand for? What do I really want? Perhaps we've even found ourselves deep in that question in our marriages or in our primary relationships. You know, being together a lot more than we had been prior to the pandemic, we get to really experience each other even more, right? Right? So reset. Reset. And the reset needs to begin within. It needs to begin within. Yes, there will be some changes out here, but the real reset has to begin within. And I don't know of any verse or any section of the Bible, actually, that is a more powerful instruction on how to reset than the words in Philippians 4:8. And I want to read them to you. Some of you know these, but I want you to really take them in a deeper way. Let them live inside of you. And then I want to challenge you to be thinking about how are you showing up within the wisdom of these words. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or worthy of praise, think about such things. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there be anything worthy of praise, think on these things. So reality check. How well do you do that? Call to mind the last bit of bad news you got, personally or professionally, the last bit of bad news you got. What did you think on then? Call to mind your last personal failure or disaster or disappointment. What did you think on then? Call to mind your last breakup. What did you think on then? Were you thinking about what is true? Were you thinking about what is lovely? Were you thinking about what is pure, what is admirable, what is excellent, what is praiseworthy? As I ask myself these questions, and these are questions to me as much as they may be questions I offer for you to consider, I can say there are many, many times, even though I know better, that I fall short. That I'm not thinking about what is praiseworthy, what is noble, what is lovely, what is excellent, what is pure, what is true. It means there's room for greater practice, greater growth, and it all is pointing to where we must begin, and it harkens back to the very foundation of our spiritual practice and teaching, and that is consciousness. That is our thinking. Peace Pilgrim said, if you knew how powerful your thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought. If you knew how powerful your thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought. And the quote I shared with you earlier from Marianne Williamson, you must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. We must learn a new way to think before we can master a new way to be. So I want to share just a few key reminders with you. And these are things actually that I'm committed to practicing myself too. I don't know if this is true for you, but it certainly is for me. I seem to go through cycles in my spiritual practice in life, cycles that bring me back to some of the basics. To go, even though I know these things, I know that I can practice them better. And that if I will practice them better and more consistently, my life is going to be better. So just because we may have been in this teaching or this teaching in us for many, many years, there's still value in revisiting those basics and really practicing them more consistently. And so the first key concept to remember is that thought is formative. Say that with me. Thought is formative. Thought is formative. I had the opportunity on a number of occasions to either share conference time with or be in India and in our dialogues with the Dalai Lama with a scientist by the name of Gregg Braden. Some of you in this room are familiar with Greg's work. I have great admiration for him. He is trained as a scientist, and he has spoken to the idea that science has made two major assumptions that were wrong. Two major assumptions that were wrong. He does say that there is a shift toward correcting those assumptions, but the two major assumptions that science got wrong were these: that what appears as empty space around us really isn't empty space, but science, for the longest time, put forth the idea that the empty space is in fact empty, but it's not empty. It's not empty at all. And the other place where science got it wrong, he said, is that they didn't realize that we, in our inner lives, in our thinking, in our consciousness, can impact this space that is not empty. Does that not sound like what New Thought is all about? It is absolutely what New Thought is all about. Thought is formative. Our life is shaped by our dominant mental structures, our dominant thinking. We now even know that the brain is impacted in a physiological way, a neurological way, by the repetition of certain thoughts. It's why we can practice worry and fear and become really, really, really good at it. And if we can become really, 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 really good at worry and fear, we can also become really, really, really good at love and kindness and meditation. Because what we're talking about is where we are focusing and how we are focusing our attention, our energy, our consciousness. It's been said, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. These words have been attributed to many different people. I don't know who is the actual author of them. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. And so we have to ask ourselves the tough questions, don't we? When we look out and we kind of take stock of our lives, when we say, okay, I'm going to hit the reset button, I'm going to step back and I'm going to look, we may find that we see some things in our health or in our relationships or in our finances or in just the quality of our lives that we are dissatisfied with. And so we need to ask ourselves, well, what would have to be the kind of thoughts that I would think and the emotions and feelings I would hold consistently that could bring about what I would prefer? And then be willing to do that work. And I think that leads us to a second key concept, and that is to practice thinking deliberately. To practice thinking deliberately. As I hear those words, as I wrote them in my lesson, as I practiced them and read them each day this week, the idea of thinking deliberately, what came into my awareness is how challenging that can be, actually. Because we don't seem to automatically think deliberately. We get going in a certain way, thoughts just flying in our minds, right? Things that we need to do, things we want to say, responsibilities, and the thoughts associated with all that. Almost like automatic pilot. Can I see by a nod of head? Does anybody else, can you relate to it? What I'm talking about here? And so just the idea of I'm going to think deliberately now. And I've actually been doing that over the last week. I've been saying, okay, wait a minute. Yes, there's the automatic stuff I need to do. I'm not going to discount that. But if I really want to bring about something different in my life, what do I need to be thinking about deliberately now? And not just in the form of affirmations. Affirmations are helpful tools. But can I be thinking deliberately on purpose? I'm going to choose this thought. I'm going to direct my mental energy in this direction. The challenge is that so much of our thinking is not deliberate. It's unconscious. And this is why in a lot of the Eastern teachings and traditions, they talk about the importance of training the mind, of actually using the mind and training the mind like a muscle, if you will, right? We train the mind by the deliberate use of it, by the deliberate focus of our thinking. If you've never looked at Unity's, some of Unity's basic textbooks, The Quest and Adventures on the Quest, I recommend them. They're good, they're excellent if you're beginning a spiritual journey, but they're also wonderful review. And in The Quest, there's a section on our thinking. And this is what Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola write about it. It's been estimated that we have 60,000 separate thoughts each day. 60,000 separate thoughts each day. Let me ask you, are you thinking deliberately 60,000 thoughts a day? So if that number is anywhere correct, anywhere correct, it means a lot of it is not deliberate, right? It's been estimated that we have 60,000 separate thoughts each day. That's about 50 thoughts each minute. How astounding. It shows that we have an incredible ability to process ideas. We do. Yet what's even more astounding is the fact that about 99% of today's thoughts are the same as yesterday's. Yeah, I know, that's how that one hits me too. No wonder it is so difficult for us to change our lives. And yet the truth is we're only a thought away from doing so. But it's a thought that has to be deliberately thought again and again and again. Another key concept is simply the idea, remembering this idea, that everything is created how many times? At least how many times? Everything is created at least twice. First here, either in my here or your here, in somebody's here, in somebody's consciousness, in somebody's mind. It was an idea. We could say it's pulled from divine mind, God mind, but into our consciousness, into our mind, and then it is created in formation. So it's first ideation, then formation, or then manifestation. It's true of everything. It's true of the chair you're sitting at. It's true of the lectern my book is on. It's true of the music we heard. It was created in somebody's mind first before it was ever put on paper and sung or played. And so we begin, and I know you know this, but unless we keep bringing ourselves back to the wisdom of it and the actual practice of it, we're not going to benefit from it. The world needs us, I believe, to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, and that in doing so, we can be a quiet inspiration to those around us of what is possible. Anytime and every time you overcome a challenge in a spiritual way, anytime, every time that you exercise faith over fear, you are an inspiration, or at least a source of inspiration, to those around you who may be struggling with some of the same kinds of things, and yet they see how you are handling it, how you are moving through. Everything is created twice, first in our mind, and then in the outer in form. Another key concept is that we move in the direction of our dominant thoughts. We move in the direction of our dominant thoughts. Our thinking is steering the energy of our lives. Our thinking is steering the energy of our lives. And so if we are committed to improving how we use these concepts and teachings, what might we do? And I was thinking about, what can we do? How do we hold ourselves more accountable to the practice of these ideas? And I came up with just three very, very simple things, but they do work. And the first is this: simply be willing to pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth. Listen to the words that come out of your mouth. Listen to the quality of them, the feeling of them. Are they words that you would say raise the vibration of life in general? Are they words that are neutral? Are they words that bring down the energy of life? Pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth, because they are a reflection of the thoughts that are cycling in your head. And remember, if there's any accuracy, so much of what's going on in our mind is unconscious, but it can be brought into greater awareness. We can understand it better by listening to the words that are coming out of our mouths. And if we're really courageous, we could ask our partner to reflect back to us daily basis. That's why I said courageous, daily or weekly. What's kind of the tenor of what you hear coming out of my mouth? Is it uplifting? Is it hopeful? Am I talking about the things I want to bring forward, or am I talking about the stuff that's painful and that should be left in the past? If we're courageous and we have an honest partner, we may discover some areas in which we've been blind. And to the extent that we can open our eyes more and be more self-aware, to that extent we become more powerful. Not powerful over others, but powerful over our own destiny, powerful over our own energy of what we are creating. Second, very simple idea and so much easier to do than when I used to recommend this many, many years ago. We set a timer, an hourly timer, or you pick the range, maybe every 3 hours. That goes off. We can do it on our watches or our phones or our apps on our computers. A timer, and when that timer goes off, we just pause. And not in a judgmental way, but in a truly objective way. You know, when you go to the doctor, they'll take your vitals, right? You know, they want your blood pressure, your heart rate, your pulse, stuff like that. So set a timer. And yours is to take your pulse, metaphorically speaking, of your thinking. How conscious were you in the last several minutes right before the timer went off? And not with judgment. Not with judgment. I am so done, or at least I'm trying to be so done, with being harsh on myself in trying to grow and to be better. To be able to be more gentle, say, boy, okay, I didn't quite get it there. That's very different than an energy of putting oneself down, like, oh, there I went again. Can you feel the difference? Right? So it's to be honest with oneself. Oh, you know what? I could improve there. So set a timer. Consider setting a timer and then notice where you are in your thinking. And the last is particularly helpful if you are a meditator or someone who has a daily practice of prayer, and I hope that you do, even if it's only for a very few minutes. You know, the song that Natalie started with, start your day with love, with joy. If we can start our days that way, if we can start our day with a few minutes of meditation, the rest of the day will flow a whole lot better. But this third little idea is, in your meditation time, imagine your mind being an inlet and an outlet of divine mind. An inlet and an outlet of divine mind. Whatever you think of when you think of divine mind, that your mind is an inlet and an outlet, a channel, if you will, of divine mind. You're not all of it, but you certainly have access to it. And in that connection of divine mind, you will find it easier to stay in the realm of a higher stream of consciousness. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. Think on these things. Namaste.